You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's topic is how to metaphysically decode your chronic symptoms. There can be a wide spectrum of differences from person to person in how stress and magnesium deficiency are expressed. Someone may experience cramps or headaches, while another sleep problems and restless legs. Someone else may develop diabetes, heart disease, or heart arrhythmias, hypothyroidism, or digestion and gut problems. How is the body trying to communicate via symptoms? My special guest today is Dr. Evette Rose, an author of 21 books, speaker and holistic counsellor with over 7,500 clients. She helps people understand and resolve emotions that may be impacting our well-being. So welcome aboard, Dr. Evette. Lovely to have you on the Body Charge podcast.
Thank you so much, Sandy, for that beautiful introduction. And I am thrilled to be here and I look forward to our conversation today.
Awesome. My first question is, how did sharing your personal story in public change your life? And how does vulnerability play a role in healing?
What a great question. This is something that I was grappling with for such a long time, because actually one of my first books, it was my autobiography, Unveiling My Truth. And Sandy, I went through 3 of these keyboards when I was writing that book. It was so hard, but you think that, oh, wow, I'm going to write a book. It'll be fun. It'll be great. I'm going to write about my life. Let me tell you, there was something shockingly revealing and vulnerable and raw and liberating all at the same time. It were all these mixed emotions when I was writing it, because it's one thing to sit there and think, oh, wow, this happened to me. That happened to me. But when you type it, when you see it in front of you and you read it back to yourself, it's almost like that part of me that was dissociated from what had happened almost came back to life. It's almost like it clicked back into me. It's like my parts came together in quite a healing, but also in quite a painful way. And it was tough. It was tough. It made me realize the real truth of what had happened and not just the story that I told myself to cope. So it really, and that's why I called it Unveiling My Truth. It really lifted the veil of what I thought it was like and how certain circumstances made me feel. And once I published it, and I mean, I went through 3 keyboards because I was crying so much, just to add that part, because it was so tough. But once I published it,
or did you feel exposed, or what were the feelings?
I felt exposed. I felt exposed because the trauma that I had was, and just a trigger warning, it was sexual abuse. So there's already a very heightened sensitivity for feeling exposed and invaded in the first place. So now it's going to a different level. But something in me just said, Evette, let's do it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Let's normalize how we feel in regards to pain and how people, could have hurt us and how we respond to that, because we keep that secret and it causes isolation. And this broke the pattern of isolation for me, because the feedback that I received from people were that in itself was almost healing, because it's almost like strangers became my compassionate witness. And it was just incredible.
Validation, perhaps, that,
yes,
you're crazy, and they had empathy for you, were able to put themselves in shoes and validate that it wasn't your fault and you shouldn't take that responsibility and shame on board, because the crime was someone else's crime and not yours.
Exactly. And this is what made me feel less awkward, less abnormal. And this is how I just started to continue to build my community and meeting beautiful people through that. And also helping myself and then helping people with the tools that I supported myself through the process. But I made sure that I helped myself first. so that I can be that strong foundation for people who come to me with similar challenges. So
Yes,
it
it's
was
a bit
lovely
like
to share that.
on
Yeah.
the aeroplane when they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you help others.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it was. And I'm so glad that I did that. As challenging as it was incredibly rewarding to be able to hear someone else who was going through a challenge. And the rewarding part was to feel that I can be their anchor, that I can be their pillar, I can be strong for them and help them to move through that. It's almost like you become that, when you look at the ocean and you see these lighthouses, and the ocean is, it's rough, it's all over the place, and that lighthouse just stands so rock solid, unwaveringly strong. That is how I felt during these processes. And it was tough, but let me tell you, there's peace, there's joy, and there's contentment on the other side.
Well, you seem to be very strong on the inside. You seem to have gathered a lot of
Yeah.
strength forged in the fire.
Yeah. I've definitely brushed off the ashes, Sandy, if I could put it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy for people because
Yeah.
we get, I think, maybe under a false impression that it's damage and it's damage forever, and it's
Mm,
something that people feel they may not be able to recover from. So the hopeful message is that that's a wrong concept, that everything is
yeah.
solvable and healable. Doesn't matter how bad the experience
Yeah.
was. We just have to know the right strategy and give it time for healing. In any
Yeah.
kind of healing, even if you cut your finger, it's not an overnight heal. There's a process to go through.
Mm,
In the
mm,
healing and our emotional healing is a real physical thing and it impacts the rest of
yeah.
the body. It can cause excessive stress, and excessive stress causes magnesium loss, and then that can severely affect our
Yeah.
health on many levels because magnesium's our electrical energy um, power point. So it feeds the
Exactly.
mitochondria when we make the ATP, the electrical system, the nervous system, everything depends on magnesium. And this is why stress has such a big impact on health itself on
Mm,
many levels. So my next question is, how is it that stress can affect people in so many different ways as to symptoms in the body, and different manifestations? And I know,
right.
there's probably a genetic aspect and, there's
Yeah.
how we were brought up but you have a different point of view, which brings in the
Mm.
metaphysical. So can you explain a little bit more about that?
That's such a great question, Sandy. So, what I've noticed after working with over 7,500 people is one undeniable truth, that there's specific type of emotions that affects specific types of, specific areas of the body. As an example, anger, suppressed anger, actually, I might add, because a lot of people are not aware of how angry they are, how frustrated they are, how powerless they feel in their life, because it was never safe to express that. So, what do? We hold it back. We try to control it in other ways through different coping mechanisms and often, coping strategies. And that normally sits in the heart. And for a lot of people, it also sits in the stomach and in the gut. However, the type of anger that you have, because we have different types of anger, meaning why are you angry? So, anger towards a mother figure or a female figure will hold that in the stomach. Anger towards a father or a masculine figure, or anger feeling towards our environment because we feel out of control of our personal space, you're
Yeah.
going to see that in the heart.
Yeah.
Yes, you're
We
going
feel
to see
trapped.
that in the heart.
Yeah. Wow.
Exactly. And anger, and for example, people who have, I think many people will be able to relate, irritable bowel syndrome or gut issues, bloating, all of that. This is when we suppress our anger in our family unit, right? Feeling like there's hostility in our family environment. I don't feel safe here. I want to push
And
people away,
helpless.
but they keep invading my space. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I look, and just to look at also what you do and what you're so passionate about, when you look at magnesium deficiency as well, because as you teach, right? Stress can cause a magnesium deficiency, creating this vicious cycle where stress increases in the body, and that normally causes magnesium to be lost through the kidneys. And this can cause a deficiency that makes the body feel actually more susceptible to stress. It's like the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Downward spiral.
Exactly. And when you look at the psychosomatics of that, the message specifically of that way, and this is not for everyone, but most people will have the belief or the habitual thinking of, I can't find my strength through my environment and relationships. I have to become self-reliant. I have to become that strength for myself. But this belief, which is a coping strategy, because we have no other option, creates the stress even more. It almost it exacerbates it, because if I can't find the strength outside of myself, I have to find it within, but no one outside of me showing how to find it within.
Yeah. And then
And
all the
therefore,
load is on your shoulders.
yes,
That
exactly.
extra stress. Now it's
Yes.
up to me. And,
Yeah,
you think about it that way, every human being is infallible. We all make mistakes. We don't know everything about everything.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
putting all that extra emphasis and responsibility on our shoulders just adds to
yeah,
the load. That's what happened to me, which is what
yeah.
led me in the first place to magnesium. I had severe heart arrhythmias in 2007 and
Wow.
8 and completely depleted. I had a magnesium crash from
Wow.
having excessive stress. I had to work sometimes 24 hours to get to print on time in my previous work. And that wrecked
Wow.
adrenals and had hypothyroid issues and Hashimoto's and all the rest of it.
My goodness.
And all those symptoms, because I did other things in
Mm,
life that were good diet. I didn't smoke, drink, and didn't have any of those
mm.
vices. It was just crashing magnesium. So when I filled that tank again, my symptoms disappeared. I was giving
Beautiful.
my body back what was missing, and it has
Yeah,
wisdom. It knows how to rebalance itself when it has the right resources. It just does its thing
exactly.
with time and patience. But I did learn at the same time. I also did a course in meditation, in the Vipassana meditation, which
Yeah,
a lot to offload the responsibility from my shoulders. And I let
right.
go and let the universe and opened up to, I think I heard a really lovely expression the other day, let God hold you. And
Oh,
just that
beautiful.
phrase by itself helps you to sit inside a bigger space where it's not just you and you're not alone and you're
Yeah,
handling this by yourself.
yeah. I love that. And it's so true, because that rebuilds what I love what you did is that it rebuilds our relationship with support, number one. Because this magnesium deficiency is because you were going, and where was your support? How do we find that support within us if we can't find it without? So this is what I'm seeing. You went deep within and you reconnected back to your psychological, physical, and spiritual support as well, and brought that back together as your anchor.
And I think the acknowledgement that I can't do
Yeah,
this on my own, you have to, I
yeah,
sort of crashed psychologically as well because I realized I felt helpless. And so I completely
yeah,
opened up and said, okay, tell me what to do next. And I opened my vessel for more information to come in. And then I started to receive more guidance and I felt supported energetically and guided on the pathway towards making magnesium my business to share with
yeah,
others so they can also find a tool to help themselves better on their pathway. Um,
yeah,
so in that sharing process, we realize we're not alone. We help each other, and that sharing of information helps us to see the truth better, and to find the right pathway in our life more
yeah. Mm,
accurately. So in your books, coming back to your books, you describe trauma from our ancestors and how that can shape our health and emotional responses today. So, I've heard we've heard of epigenetic effect. coming.
Hmm.
How does this actually work metaphysically from previous generations when there's been perhaps past traumas in war times or whatever in family
Right.
situations?
So as I see it, the DNA lineage, and when we just look at evolution in itself, it's actually quite solution orientated. So when we see a problem, we think, oh my goodness, what is going wrong? What we should actually ask is, wow, what is it trying to correct? And how can I support this error that needs to be corrected? Because unresolved trauma, destructive behavioral patterns that didn't serve an ancestor, it tends to actually be carried forward with the intention for a solution to be applied to it if the previous ancestor didn't find a solution to this. Now, this can happen through copied behavior. It comes through in inherited patterns, because how do we inherit certain characteristics from a grandparent that we never met, and yet the parents would say, wow, you're just like your grandfather, like this is,
Sometimes it
how
skips
does
a
that happen,
generation.
right? Exactly. And what I noticed is, when we do have challenges in our life, we normally need to look at 3 generations back. So, meaning your mother's mother or father, especially if there's a really big issue, a big challenge or health challenge that we cannot find the source of in our life, or from our parents' side. And this has been shown with scientific research. So this is not really new. But what I learned, the reason why this is happening is that the DNA lineage wants to survive. It wants to stay strong. And it's almost like it has its own collective consciousness as well. And this is it's meant to grow. It's meant to become stronger so that we can continue to live into the future with our legacy and our future, the future descendants that's going to come from that. Of course, we want to have the best for these people that belongs to our bloodline, and often even most cases our soul family groups as well. And this is what I notice. If something is unresolved, it's going to keep showing up, whether it's emotional patterns, whether it's habits,
Repetitive.
health challenges. Yes. And it's not there to ruin your life. It's really the DNA lineage asking, we haven't found a solution to this. How can we try to fix it in this lifetime so that we can survive, so that we can become stronger?
It's a signpost, isn't it? So what you're saying
Yes.
reminds me a lot of Carl Jung's group soul teachings, and that we solve issues and problems, and let's call them imbalances when things
Yeah.
were unjust, unresolved. It's imbalance. The universe is always trying to rebalance itself. It has mechanisms to
Yeah.
tip the seesaw back to the balanced position.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're saying is that we keep getting the same message repeated until we see it so that we can
Right.
fix it. And so working together in that group soul energetic space helps us to share and see what we need to see better, rather than a myopic point of view where we have blinkers on. And we're
Yeah.
only looking at one thing, and
Yeah.
also maybe distracted by belief systems and programming which is not accurate and not reflective of the truth. We need to kind of strip away and sometimes unlearn
Yeah.
assumptions that we have to see what's
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. But the biggest key to all of that is to feel safe in doing so, because the body will not heal if it doesn't feel safe. We can give it resources. It can heal through what we give it. But when we start to look at psychological, cognitive, wiring and functioning, that is still going to be incredibly active until we start to find the sources of what causes us to feel unsafe. Because people sometimes, I say, I call it healing backwards. It's tough to try to heal something if we don't feel safe doing so. And sometimes, and I mean, I had a beautiful story with magnesium myself. It just dissolved my insomnia. But there's a reason why I had insomnia in the first place. And that was because of my thinking, my stress patterns, and all of this
Background
that drove
stress.
me into the ground. Yeah. So even though magnesium helped me with that, that issue
Mhm.
came back in a different way,
You were driving
right?
with the brakes on.
Exactly. So I had to actually look at where in my life do I feel unsafe
Where was
and
the
where do
friction?
I need to address? Yeah. So it healing is linear. Once we deal with something through supplements, it's important to check in with our mental health as well, from my personal experience. So, this is something that really helped to bring me back on track. But I had to learn to feel that I'm safe in my environment now. I'm not that 4-year old little girl
Innocent.
that's stuck in
Yeah.
the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we come into the world very, very innocent.
Yeah.
It's like, being launched into a game with your avatar and you don't know the
Yeah.
rules. You just
Yeah.
have to
Exactly.
play.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it felt like for me, for sure. And sometimes we feel like we don't know what we're doing, but somehow, Sandy, we wake up every day and we successfully get through the day, even though your definition of success might not align with what you accomplished that day. But the fact that we get through that day for me is a win. That is a successful day, no matter how messy it sometimes gets. And I think we often fail, not intentionally, but to give ourselves that self-love and that credit for, you know what, today was messy, but we did it. We got through it. And this is something that I learned to give to myself, is just to give myself that little bit of credit of, even if I failed something, I'm like, you know what? I didn't wake up today to fail. I gave it my best. I gave it my best under the circumstances. I gave it my best under the negative beliefs and thoughts that I was, trying to juggle at the same time as well. I gave it my best because I'm sure you can agree that no
Yeah,
one wakes up every day thinking, yeah, how much can we ruin our life? We don't do that, Sandy. We do our best.
we do our best and we have to be able to
Yeah.
forgive ourselves for
Yeah.
mistakes,
Mm,
because they will inevitably happen because we don't know everything.
exactly.
This is why I think it's
Yeah.
important to connect with a higher power or an
Yeah.
understanding that there are larger intelligent forces at play that we can connect with and ask for help from. And when we have that strength of that connection, it it
Yeah.
gives us intuitive powers to find and navigate better. You may the mind may come in and say, "Oh, no, 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 no," and or your preconceived ideas or your assumptions or your built-in,
Right.
learnings. But
Yeah.
if you connect with that higher source of intelligent power via I think it's the solar plexus and the heart, isn't it? That's the center
Yeah.
of your umbilical cord connection.
That's it. Yes.
The information comes through, follow your gut feeling, as they say. Um,
Yes.
that, that takes a bit of practice because, as I said before, you have to unlearn preconceived
Yeah. Yeah.
thoughts and not helpful. And
Exactly.
rediscover who you are and who are we really? We're not just a physical body or a
Yeah.
robot. There's something else driving that vehicle, right?
Yeah. And sometimes that space was not given to us. We didn't have the compassionate witnesses or the mature enough caregivers for whatever reason, whatever their blocks and challenges were that caused them to not be able to hold that space. And the greatest gift that I gave myself and people that I worked with was to teach people how to create that space for yourself, how to become your own self compassionate witness and to practice self compassion. This was an incredibly powerful gateway of healing for me. Instead of looking for that from other people who's constantly fluctuating and changing, and one day they validate, the next day they invalidate, which means that your foundation of love is going to wobble like the ocean all the time because it's reliant on other people who are unstable themselves. And so and the more I started to realize that and awaken to that, I realized, wow, this is why I constantly feel like I'm not in my power, why I feel other people are in control of me, and I needed to call it back to me.
That's right. You can control yourself, but you can't control
Yeah,
other people. And that's another
exactly.
hurdle, people. You may love someone, but they just haven't got it, and they keep self-sabotaging and hurting
Yeah.
themselves and others. And it's
Right.
it's sometimes a very difficult thing to step back and go, well, that's their
Mm,
journey, their thing. You can't open your head and download on a USB knowledge and just put it into
yeah.
someone else. They have to open up their own vessel and receive that information, and it's their choice. So it's all about choice, isn't it? You know,
It,
everything is out there that you
yeah.
need, but how are you going to choose to get it, to download that
Yeah.
information, to
Yeah.
internalize, see it, and take the blinkers off? It's a choice.
So true.
And that's
So
the
true.
vulnerability you started with at the
Yeah.
beginning of our podcast.
Yeah.
Talked about the vulnerability, and that means that we have to
Mm,
own our mistakes, and we have to, be sorry and ask for forgiveness and forgive ourselves and know that we came from the right intention. Um, and we have to honor who we are from the point of view of intention. Good intention deserves full marks, 10 out of 10. And if you make
yeah.
mistakes on how to get there or how to achieve those goals, well, you have to forgive yourself and try again and do it better next time. So you have to recognize where the mistake was and
Yeah.
how, and resolve it, and then you can move
Mm,
forward on the free highway without traffic jams, right?
mm. So true. So true. And that choice that you put emphasis on, it's incredibly important. And at first, when I started my healing journey, I didn't understand that. I didn't grasp it. I'm like, how can this be a choice? Of course, who wants to live like that? Why should it be a choice? It should be common sense. And this is where we become powerless in our life. We become passive in the driver's seat. We're our designated position is the driver's seat. That means we need to take control.
Not
And
the
that's
tail wagging
through
the
conscious
dog.
decision. Yeah, exactly. And I think this is where I became passive because, and this comes back to me again and again, for me personally, the power of space being held for you by yourself, by becoming your anchor, because that's when it starts to feel safer to make a decision. Because sometimes for me in the past, I had to make decisions because I was pushed into a corner. I had to hit a crisis before I would make a decision. Now, as part of my self love practice, I decided, you know what? No,
Wait for the
I'm
crisis.
going, I'm not waiting for the crisis. I'm not waiting for the damage control stages. I'm going to sidestep that, and I'm going to make this change that I feel called to make right now. It's going to be graceful. And I realize that healing is not just a choice, but how we heal is also, not always, not in all cases, I have to say that, but it's also a choice of how we choose to heal. Gently, gracefully, one step at a time? Do you choose to just go all in and give it your all and just cry your heart out and get it out? We all need different ways of healing, and it's important to listen
Something you can't really
what your
force.
body needs.
Yeah, you can't really force
Yeah.
it against
No.
the process that
No.
it needs to go through.
Yeah.
Be gentle.
Exactly. And that's by listening to, what does my body need? How does my body need to heal? What do I need right now? One week you might just need to speak to someone. The next week you might feel like you just need someone to hold you while you just bawl your eyes out. And it's allowing yourself to do that, giving yourself permission to be in that space.
To be
And
yourself, to cater
exactly.
for your real needs, to put your
Yeah.
oxygen mask on so then you can help other people, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But sometimes that mask is when we make it about ourselves, but there's so much shame sometimes associated with doing something for ourselves that it stops us dead in our
Yeah,
tracks.
don't be ashamed.
And yeah, no, no.
I'm going
So
to
that's,
ask you if you can just
yeah,
let people know, because we're coming to the end shortly, if you can
sure.
know where they can find you, have a look at the books that you've written, connect with
Of
you.
course. Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy, for that too. You can find me at metaphysicalanatomy.com, and also my books is at Evette evettebooks.com. So that's EVETTE books.com. And it links to all the Amazon and international sites.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. Has been amazing.
Thank you,
And
Sandy.
I get a lot out of it. It's very, very fundamental. And, you know, I even feel healed after this half-hour conversation. It's so
Oh,
nice to
beautiful.
connect with people who got it, who've
Yes.
seen that pathway, because it's really
Mm,
strong. It's
yeah.
very, very emotionally healing just to think that way, just to open the door to the concept.
It is. Yes, beautiful. And I wish that for everyone else as well. I wish that that self-love and that self-compassion for everyone, because that's a very beautiful relationship to have with yourself.
Yes, I agree 100%. That's a great way to finish. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy.
I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electromagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.